1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All happy and excited, jumping up and down, dancing and celebrating their trophies. See all their trophies, talking about how much fun it was to do sports and art. Do you guys remember those days? No. You miss them at all? No, you're happy in your world of extended essays, IAs, academic integrity, and all of that, right? Research skills. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. Okay, that's today's session. So a couple of announcements, mainly for parents. We have been selected, as you know, to participate in a research study on open book exams, which means that our students from the class of 24 and the class of 25 who take economics might be either part of the treatment group or the control group. I hope you know what that means, especially those of you in psychology. In economics paper 1. So that means there's about a 50% chance they might get an open book exam and a 50% chance they'll get a traditional exam. Then at the end, they'll look at the results and try to determine if open book exams is something that we should look at in the future. So it's a simple thing. I think we've sent an interest form already, but we have the official consent form coming. So please be aware of that and look out for that, and please fill up the form so that we can participate in this study and hopefully move towards an assessment structure that's more authentic and less rote memorization and more conceptual, okay? It's just participating in a study to look at whether open book exams might be a thing of the future. Secondly, we have another announcement. Mira's going to remind me, which is that we have a DP evaluation visit coming. So that means that every 5 years we need to get evaluated by the IBO, and they need to check that we're on track and doing all the things that they want us to do, such as collaboration and academic integrity and teaching research skills, etc., and training our teachers. So they will want some feedback from the parents, so we will be sending out a survey and have a focus group that will meet with the IB evaluators when they come in August. So again, please be aware of that. Is that okay, Mira? Yeah? Okay, great. So over to you, Yuktap Vendruv. Yes? Tell me? Over to Preeti. Sorry. Okay. Preeti and Sarah, I guess. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mick. Good morning, parents. As a little startup activity, we have a little Menti for you. I know you have a cheat sheet in your hand, but please don't refer to it for now. If you could just log into menti.com on your phones and put in some words on whatever you know about the extended essay. Whatever you've heard our learners tell you, whatever they've scared you with.
You have to explain the code.
The code is up top. So if you just go to www.menti.com and use the code 61748909, it will ask you to enter up to 3 words. Anything that you know about the extended essay. Our learners are not going to help our parents.
Looks like they already are.
Because I saw them.
Judging by the grins
Okay.
on their faces.
Whatever you think the extended essay is about. Come on, let your parents write an exam for once. 61748909. I like how scary and easy has shown up on the word cloud. Okay. Parents, if you're joining us online, also you would be able to add your contribution to the word cloud. I'm hoping you're all also able to see our screen. Okay, so the usual suspects have shown up, including ChatGPT. Do you guys know that Turnitin has created its own AI to combat ChatGPT? We're not worried. Sorry? Enjoy. Give it your best. Okay, so if we could come back to the slide. Today's session is primarily to introduce you as the parents to the extended essay. So like that put up on the screen, the extended essay is a core component of the IB diploma program. It's a 4,000 word essay. Sounds like a lot. It is a lot. That is entirely student-led. It's an independent research study report that they write. And they can pick any topic that falls under the DP subjects that are offered by the IB. Now, preferably, we tell the students to pick a subject that they're already taking as a part of their 6 subjects of the IB, and if possible, one of the HL subjects. So it could be in economics, it could be in physics, chemistry, math, any of the subjects. There's also an option to do an interdisciplinary EE, so between 2 different subjects, which comes under WSEE, which is the World Studies Extended Essay, or it could be under Literature and Performance, or an extended essay in ESS. They will all come up as interdisciplinary studies. So we have learners who are taking up World Studies EE in this batch. Now, apart from the 4,000 words, which is the biggest, the daunting part of the essay, equally important are the reflective processes that go along with the extended essay. So the learners complete 3 reflections with their supervisors, and they document these reflections on a form, which is called as the RPPF. So this is the form. As you can see, there are places for students to reflect, first, second, and a third reflection that happens at the end of the essay in the form of a viva, that the supervisor interviews the student, and they reflect on their journey as an individual through the extended essay. More so about their growth, their ATL skills, how they have changed in terms of their personal learning and their work process, how the extended essay has been for them as a whole. That forms the third reflection. Apart from that, if you can go to the last page of the RPPF, the supervisor also adds comments to the entire process before submission to the IB. So along with the 4,000 word essay, this form is also submitted to the IB. The extended essay is externally assessed. So the IB examiners are going to assess the extended essay. So this whole process of the EE takes about 40 hours, which includes 3 to 5 hours that they spend with their supervisors in discussions, in reflections, and so on. If you could move to the next slide. I'm just going to leave this on the screen for a couple of minutes. These are some sample research questions that have been submitted to the IB for the extended essay. I've just taken one from different subjects, just to give you an idea. The third one, which talks about political decisions to host the Olympic Games, and how it affects the economic and financial welfare of its citizens. That's an example of an interdisciplinary essay. So that goes under global politics and economics. So you take a two-subject approach to answering that research question. Okay, so this is kind of the overview of the process that our students are going to take up. I have already started for the extended essay. We begin by helping our learners develop some research skills. The extended essay encompasses all the ATL skills that the IB, well, not assesses, has the students reflect on, mainly the research skills, but other aspects of the ATL skills, like thinking about what the ethical considerations of your research might be, being able to pick out barriers, potential barriers in their research, being able to skim and read, be able to create an annotated bibliography, writing the essay itself. So it encompasses all the ATL skills. So we begin by teaching them the skills and the tools that they will use for the extended essay, and they complete a mini extended essay as a trial run to kind of understand the process of what you go through in a particular subject's EE. Now, sometimes this gives them a great idea of what they want to do. A lot of them do continue their mini EE topics into the main EE. In some cases, they realize this is not the subject for me, and so they can change the subject as well. Once the subjects are chosen, supervisors are allotted. Supervisors are basically KC teachers who have been trained to take the students through the EE process based on the subject choice. Once that is done, they begin their initial research, and they zone down into a particular topic, a particular research question, and it takes a bit of time. Now, our learners are in this area between 4, 5, and 6 at the moment. As they do their research, we ask them to create an annotated bibliography. Can someone tell me what an annotated bibliography is? Ria?
So we do initial research and we pick a couple sources you think will help us with our topic, and we answer why it helps us and what important information you can take from it.
Okay. Have you started on your annotated bibliography? Where do you have it?
So yeah, I have almost finalized my topic, and I've been working on sources as well, and I have annotated, I think, 2 sources so far, so yeah.
Great, good job. The annotated bibliography is a work in progress, so it kind of helps them understand what they're reading, kind of a review of literature of a sort, and at the end of that process, they should know where they're going with their extended essay, at which point they submit a proposal to us. This is my topic, this is what I'm going to do, this is the plan, this is how I will finish, and this is what I need to finish the essay. At this point, we do our first reflection on the RPPF, a very preliminary reflection in which they talk about the exact same things. Then they start on their research. It could be an experiment, it could be data collection, it could just be finding sources on the internet and compiling them, depending on their extended essay. So that goes on for quite a while, including the summer. So around May, before we break, they submit a summer work plan to us. When we come back, this is where I would be. That brings us to August, where they have a little milestone in their extended essay process. In August, we expect the students to have finished 50% of their extended essay. And when I say 50%, I do not mean 50% of the writing. It could be 50% of the writing as well, but show evidence of work being completed for up to 50% of the extended essay. How would we know that 50% is done? How would I know as a supervisor that 50% of your work is done? Sorry? Meetings, thank you, Madhav. Meetings how? With whom? With your supervisors. So the entire process, they are constantly in conversation with their supervisors. They maintain a document, which is called as the RRS, which I will come to in a minute, which is shared with the supervisors. So any work that they do will be recorded in that document, and the supervisor will be able to see it. So we also have regular check-in meetings, which can be an actual sit-down meeting or something that we're talking about in the passing. And so the supervisors will know exactly where they are in the process of the extended essay. Now, this is important, and 50% EE is what is used to predict their first set of predicted grades in September. So that 50% is going to be an extremely important point in your EE. So we come back in August, we have the predicted grades in September. Around that time, they do their second reflection. And then, followed by that, they continue with their process. In October, when we are introducing the new IB1s to, this is of course, by this time they will be in IB2. When we're introducing the IB1s to the extended essay, our students will display their work, their process, in the form of an EE cafe. You all went to the EE cafe of the current IB2 learners, yeah? So you'll be sharing, this is where I am with my extended essay, this is my process, these are the barriers that I encountered, this is how I overcame them, this is my topic, this is why I chose it, that sort of reflection with the peers. Then in November and December, we have our draft submission. So for the extended essay, one draft is submitted to the supervisor and feedback is given by the supervisor to the learners. So that happens by the 1st of December. Feedback is received in January, and the month of January is used to edit the draft to create the final submission to the IB. Now that final submission happens, the supervisor reads it, and we have our final reflection, which is a viva, that you have an interview with your supervisor, at the end of which the RPPF is submitted, supervisor fills in the RPPF with the final comments, and then we're ready to upload to the IB portal. And then the most important part, we have the EE fair. Now that the extended essay is completed, we celebrate it. So they will present their final extended essay learning to the entire school community to celebrate their very first, for most of them, it will be their very first of many academic writing that they will do, and that we expect you to be very, very proud of your work. So it's the time to show off and celebrate what you have achieved in an almost year-and-a-half long process. Okay? Yes? Any questions at this point? Okay. Can go to the next one. Okay, so let's talk about the students. Samyukta, Could you share what an RRS is? What is it used for? How do you maintain it?
Okay, so an RRS essentially stands for Researchers Reflection Space, and any resource or any ideas or any feedback you get from your supervisors, everything goes into the RRS. So you basically have all of your sources, your annotated bibliography, your teacher's feedbacks, any tasks the teacher gives you, any ideas that you may have related to your extended essay. So for me, what I personally prefer to do is I like to keep my RRS compartmentalized into my notes and my annotated bibliography, my feedback and my tasks, as well as any ideas I might have about my extended essay in general. So for my note taking, I'd like to keep it separate from my RRS because I feel like it's easier for me to keep all my notes in one place and keep all my ideas and my bibliography in another place. So I do it via Excel, and it's easier for citations as well, in-text citations later on. So essentially, you have all of your information, all of anything related to the extended essay in one place, and that's your RRS.
Yeah, so it's basically a document where you put everything you've researched and basically anything you've thought of, your plans for your extended essay in one place. And it's kind of informal, so it doesn't really hold as much importance as the RPPF does, but it basically helps you in planning your process throughout. Just planning in advance and making sure that every point that you had that you wanted to include in your extended essay is met.
Yeah, so I think it's really useful because throughout the entire process, you have everything in one place, all your sources, your reflections, and it's also some place where you can keep notes for yourself if you want to look back on what you need to add or what you need to remove from your E. So it's helpful to have everything in one place.
And also, in case your essay gets flagged as plagiarized or academically not honest, IB would be looking at your RRS as evidence for your work. So that's why it's important.
Absolutely, and also for that 50%. How do I know 50% of the work has been done? I see your notes on the RRS. That's how I know. I know you've put the work in, I know you've done your experiment, I know you have the data, I know you've looked at the sources. So the RRS is a very important tool for the IB and for us to authenticate your work. This is how I know the work is yours, the work is genuine, okay? And okay, so as the role of the students is basically to maintain an RRS, plan and execute the research process. We assist them in this by breaking down the tasks month-wise into checkboxes that they tick off to make sure that work is done. We have also supervisor sessions that happen twice a week. If not, they also meet the supervisors at any time that they are both free. So you have a checklist that they basically go through every month. That's for January. So most of the tasks there are complete. So that was like set up an RRS, start a Zotero bibliography, and so on and so forth. One of this is also to meet the librarian for any resources that they might need. So this is not done yet because we're still in February. So these tasks are for February. Can come back. And most importantly, they have to uphold academic integrity. And one of the ways by which we do that is citing as you're writing, which is something that our learners told me after the mini EE. Could you share a little bit?
Regarding academic integrity as a whole?
No, as in how you kind of reference your sources, maintain
Okay.
everything that you need for.
Right, so there's one very useful application software that ma'am has shared with us. It's called Zotero, and I think most of us are using that. It's basically where we can individually, for each subject or for anything that we're doing, we can log in our sources. So it's an application that connects to your web browser, and all you have to do is whenever you're going through any article, website, anything for that matter, if the application is open at the same time, you just need to there's a icon that pops up on the right corner of the page, and if you click on that, that source, that entire website is logged into this application. So for example, this is my extended essay Zotero page, which I've shared with my supervisor, which is Preeti ma'am. And anything that I had read, I just clicked onto it and it logged in here. And what this does is it helps you firstly gather down your sources, and then later on, once you need to cite, like we are using Emily9, or if you want to even make your annotated bibliography. So a lot of us, we can maintain our annotated bibliography here as well, because there's a section for where each source you can make notes, and anything that you have in mind, you can pen it down. So Zotero is like this one cumulative app where you can store everything that you cite. And when it comes to citing your sources, they have a wide variety of options. We're choosing Emily9. You click on it, it'll prepare the entire thing for you on spot. So yeah, I think it's one thing that we've been using constantly since from our mini E, and we'll continue to use it for our extended essay.
So Zotero is something that they've been using for some time now, and we're hoping that they will use for all their internal assessments as well. So any kind of essays. To maintain their bibliography, firstly, to make sure it's all in one place and you don't lose it and you know where you got your sources from, so that we can credit all the sources correctly and consistently in the right format. And of course, the last thing about the students is that they have to adhere to all the deadlines that are set for them and kind of make sure that all the requirements of that subject-specific extended essay is met. So it could be something like for a world studies EE, they have to kind of justify why I need 2 subjects to answer this question, or why my approach requires the tools of 2 different areas for me to apply and understand this question. So those kind of subject-specific requirements are discussed between the supervisor and the learner at any of their meetings. So that brings us to you as parents. So in a few minutes, we will share all the documents that we use for the extended essay, the EE guide, the handbook that we have, this brochure, what we use for citing and referencing, into a packet, resource packet, which is just a folder. We'll share that with you in a few minutes. So please take a look at it. And one of the biggest sources for our student are the parent community. You are experts in your field, you have experience, and you know other people who can help our learners. So when you come in for the EE Cafe, when you know that the students are looking for sources, and if you know if you can contribute as a source, or if you know people who can, please share them with our learners. So we already have Dhruv, who's actually talking to some of the grandparents of the 10th graders, right? Yeah. Yeah, so Lekha's grandmother. So she's going to be one of his sources. So as a source, this is a very great opportunity for you to share your experiences with our learners. Number 2, please keep an eye on the deadlines. This is something that we require the parents to also support us in. So if you remember the chart that we displayed in the previous coffee morning, you kind of see that everything starts overlapping after a while, especially when they come back for IB2. So at that point, to maintain deadlines is going to be a challenge and a very important aspect of their IB, because we see a domino effect if it doesn't happen that way. So the earlier with the extended essay and meeting deadlines are going to help our learners give their fullest to the extended essay itself. So the EE timeline is also in the resource packet that will be shared with you. So that's more details of those 13 points that I have put up. The IB1 weekly log, which all the learners have access to, will have the month-wise split up of tasks as well. So you can monitor either one and just talk to your children about it. Help us meet the requirements. At times, you have to do certain experiments for which they may have to come to school. As long as the teachers are here, the labs will be open. So some Saturdays or sometimes during the break, when teachers are on campus, they could come access the labs and get their work done. So in those things, if the parents could also be helpful, would be great. In terms of upholding academic integrity, from our side, from the student side, and from your side, we're all equal stakeholders. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the session. And finally, moral support, as they say, from a distance, if I'm right, they can handle it. But please be there to support them, especially towards the deadlines. They get very jittery. So we trust them entirely, but we give them all the moral support we can. And the most important of it all, remind them to celebrate the extended essay. It's an important part of their IB, an important part of their life. So remind them again and again, like we will as well, to celebrate the work that they have completed. Not so fun part, but of course the EE is graded and it has certain requirements. You must achieve a D or higher in the diploma, to get the diploma for the extended essay. It is externally assessed, and along with TOK, it gives you 3 total points towards the IB score. So you need 2 A's or 1A and 1B between the extended essay and your TOK grade in order to get 3 full points to the IB score. And then the rest of it is detailed in the matrix, which is also a part of the EE guide. You can find it over there. Then that brings us to an overview of the assessment criteria. So I'd like to hand over to Ms. Sakveer. She'll also be talking to you about the role of the librarian in the extended essay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a quick look at the overview. This is how our extended essay is assessed. The learners have been taken through this process in depth. I think last week we had a session, and this is how the extended essay is assessed. Total marks 34, and this is where it is divided. Criteria A is focus and method, whether your topic is focused or not. RQ, your research question, is it arguable? Enough arguable, so that you can answer in 4,000 words. And methodology, what are the different sources and what are the different tools that you are going to use throughout your essay to answer the question? And that all comes in title page and introduction, where the examiner gets a feel of your essay. Then criteria B, knowledge and understanding. Your subject-specific terminology. Are you, for example, if you're a BM student, are you enough using BM terminology that you have used or read in your classes? And critical thinking. I think this is the crucial aspect of the extended essay, where many students do not get enough marks. So discussion, research, do not just copy and paste. Put your perspective as well. That is called analysis. Compare, do contrast, bring similarities, bring 2 different sources and try to put your perspective also in. So the critical thinking, after that, presentation. This is very easy. How the IB has already given us guidelines, how your essays should look like, 12 font, double spacing, so on and so forth. And finally, Preeti Miss has already spoken to you about reflections, the 3 reflections that you have to write in 500 words. Yes, next. Yes, so library research is an integral part for all the IBDP subjects. Throughout this 2-year program, the library continuously provides support to its learner in the learning journey. The library conducts throughout, from the beginning of the academic year, mini sessions. Sessions as is, what is research, how to do research, how do you narrow down your research, how to pull out keywords from the RQ, what are the different synonyms that you can use to search, and how do you filter certain websites, and how do you evaluate the information, so on and so forth. In addition, the IB also demands that the researchers should look beyond Google. Yeah? Because year after year, examiners have been pinpointing in subject reports to the teachers as well as the learners that they need to use a lot of academic, scientific, and peer-reviewed material. Because they have seen, when they are reading the extended essays, they find a lot of students are just pulling out resources from Google. So they want students to also have a look at these different sources. And that's why where databases come in picture. So the school has subscribed to JSTOR, which all of you know is a warehouse of resources. And in addition, we also have a tie-up with different libraries in case if a student wants any resources and we don't have access to it. So we do get in touch with different libraries and we do get full text material. Besides this, we also encourage students, or we also give exposure to students how to use open access educational resources that are freely available on the net. Because many a time students will just Google, but we have created a web page for EE. Subject-wise, we have listed down open access educational resources so that they can go there and use them. And finally, another important aspect of IB is that they should develop the habit of recording sources. And this is in the form of citations or annotated bibliography. So I'm coming to this point of academic integrity. What academic integrity is, how it is to be followed, and why it is to be followed. We have a panel discussion coming up. I think students and parents are part of it. So sit back, listen, and participate actively. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. As the students get ready for the panel discussion, because we are running late, I'll just remind you, the upcoming events are INME trip in the first week of March, and the semester end examination starting on the 17th of April. I request parents to take note of that. Starting on the 17th of April, most probably ends on the 27th. And the SLCs will happen on the 11th to the 13th of May. So we have about 3 weeks between the exams and the SLC. I just would like to draw the attention of the parents. The packet that Preeti is going to share about the extended essay, the folder, will also contain the academic integrity policy of KC High. Please go through that. That contains the roles and responsibilities of parents, teachers, supervisors, and students. Please go through that, and if you have any questions, please get back to us. Now over to the panelists and the moderators for the panel discussion on academic integrity. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you like watching people argue, because now we're going to go into a panel discussion on the importance of academic integrity in the IB. So can we please have a round of applause for our incredible panelists?
So we have Lekha from 10th, we have Samyuk from 9th, Samyukta from IB1, we have Aryan from IB1, we have Ritika from IB2, we have, of course, Mixer, and we have Janani Auntie. So it's gonna revolve around academic integrity. The several concepts that come in, several things that we need to talk about. And so I'll give like a brief intro. Academic integrity is a fundamental value in education, and especially in the IBDP, as it ensures that students and everyone involved and researchers alike adhere to the highest standards of honesty, fairness, and professionalism in their work. It is about doing the right thing even when no one is watching.
So this entire event is about celebrating, academic integrity in the IB and the role it plays in all of our academic careers. But it is important to note that in today's fast-paced world, academic dishonesty has become more and more prevalent. So this panel discussion hopes to touch upon some of those issues and look at academic dishonesty and academic integrity with a very critical view.
We're not here to talk about why ways to resolve or fix academic integrity. This is more of a panel discussion to, like he said, celebrate the concept and also talk about how it's a very integral part of the IB diploma program. So we have a set of questions that we've prepared, and we'd like to ask them to the panelists and, of course, the parents also, so that it can be like a sort of conducive session. So our first question,
so we will be discussing each prompt for around 7 minutes, and we'll take 2 or 3 answers from the audience as well after the panelists are done discussing, just so we get to know your opinion as well.
okay, so our first question to the panelists, either of you all can answer. It's to start off. So what role do teachers and instructors play in promoting academic integrity among their students? Pretty basic.
So I think the role that teachers and instructors play is inculcating these values into the students about academic integrity. So, to build up their value systems so that when they're tempted to do something that's academically dishonest, their value system sort of comes into play and prevents them from, engaging in activities that might otherwise be considered academically dishonest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also the teachers setting an example themselves. I can say for a fact that all of my teachers, whenever they, take off questions from somewhere, there's always a link down. So that's the simplest way of showing that you're not academically dishonest. I mean, always citing your sources, as we have seen, is a very important part of, a research process and writing stuff in the IB as well. So I believe that's one very easy way that teachers can sort of instill those values, and it should be done from a younger age, like from the time you're small. Those values should be instilled, that what you should be academically honest, and that integrity should be there. So I think if teachers and instructors could start telling children that you should do this from the beginning itself, I think it would be helpful.
You want me to argue with Ritika, right? I don't think adults need to tell kids to be honest. I think young kids are kind of naturally honest, right? If you ask a second grader who comes in with a giant diorama with the pyramids and the Nile, did you do that? The second grader will say, my mommy helped me. Yeah. And that's where the discussion about academic honesty really begins, right? So it's really, the problem from my perspective is not so much that adults and parents and teachers need to teach kids to be honest. The problem usually comes from adult behavior in the first place, right? And it starts oftentimes very early, when parents are doing homework for their kids. That's where academic dishonesty begins. So it's often about celebrating and allowing children to express themselves and to speak honestly about where they're getting their ideas. Yeah, my mom helped me. Yeah, my dad built this pyramid for me. Yeah, my tutor helped me do my homework. Kids will tell you the honest truth usually, but it's this concern about marks and grades and will this thing be assessed and all of that. Once that adult thinking starts creeping into children's minds, then the problems start to arise. As I just said, I think I think kids are naturally honest. Young kids are naturally honest. So really, it comes down to kindergarten, right? Asking kids, particularly if they come in with some work that is clearly not the work of a 6-year-old. They come in with some giant model of the solar system, right? And everything's to scale, right? And then you say, where did you get this? How did you do it? They'll tell you. Yeah, they will. They'll say, oh, yeah, my grandfather did it for me. Yeah, it happens.
I think there's also a very fundamental roadblock in which we think that we're not supposed to when I think the entire point is that there is no harm in giving credit. If you've used your work and if you use someone else's work to do something on your own, there's absolutely nothing wrong in giving credit. And I think that roadblock is something that eventually is something that should, dismantle so that we become more open to share.
I also think as kids get older, um, they're more tempted by the internet and AI to be academically dishonest because there's the entire pressure of grades, there's procrastination, there's there's this realization that, oh my gosh, I'm at this stage in my life where I need to achieve something and I need to be at this level. And I think that sort of motivates kids to be academically dishonest, and especially kids that don't have a strong value system in place, right? So when you're not determined by your values, it's easier for kids to sort of sway here and there and be academically dishonest, and may start by one or two assignments, but then it starts getting more and more serious. It starts building up to using AI, using other people to write your extended essay, or write IAs or IAs and other important school documents. So I feel like it's important for students to be grounded by their value systems and be able to control themselves from the temptation of AI and other tools.
I personally feel that all these issues crop up only when you have the fear of deadline and there is no one to support them. This is where a child going dishonest and trying to plagiarize some amount of work starts with the deadline. And that's when the teacher says, no, you have to complete your work. There may the student must be undergoing some issue, wasn't able to complete the work. But in the end, all these creeps up from the point of deadline. And as teachers, as educators, it can be parents, educators can be parents, educators can be teachers. So, as educators, we need to understand the perspective of the child. There is no particular timeline from which we need to inculcate the habit of honesty. It starts from home and it continues into the school journey. It is as simple as that.
I think adding on to what Samyukta said, once it becomes habitual, it begins to reflect on your own performance, on your own thinking, and it's difficult to think beyond a certain point because you you feel helpless, right? Because you've come to a point where you rely on the internet so much that you feel like you don't have the capacity, and you actually don't have the capacity to actually go beyond what the internet can offer. And I think the entire point of why we come to school, why we do the IB, or any other course for that matter, is to develop the intuition, the instinct to go beyond what the normal thinker would do, right? But when you resort to the internet, you defeat the entire purpose of coming to school, at least in my opinion. So I feel like it's important to stick to your values, and to know that even if it's gonna be a little more tedious, if it's gonna take more time, at least you'll have a more complete experience at the end of it if you're honest, and if you produce work that you can proudly call yours.
I would add on to that by saying that it's important to like emphasize the how crucial the process is in something, so that when instead of giving like when a student's in a situation where they think that the most important thing is the outcome, and then they're placed into a situation where in reality you're not going to be able to achieve the outcome without the process, that's where you need to understand that it's more important to be aware of what you're doing to get to the goal than just getting the goal straight out of somewhere else.
Because there are a bunch of questions we have lined up, and it's not only for the panelists, it's for you all as well. So, any views, any thoughts, please share. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question then. So, the second question is more, we try to cater it to the IB, like we said before. So, maintaining academic integrity is always looked at as a compulsion and something that everyone must abide by. However, as IB learners, how can we look at it from the perspective perspective of it already being ingrained in our culture? That's one question that we had. Parents, students, anybody, teachers.
So I think the moment you start off with IB, academic honesty is something that's instilled in you. And I can say that when the current batch of IB1 just started IB, we had this 3 days of IB bonding, where I think on the last day we were speaking about academic honesty and integrity. And I think it's activities like those which really help students see the importance of it and see that the fact that you're doing things like this and you're learning academic integrity on the very first day of school shows that it's something that is going to be there and it's going to be a constant in your life. So I think if students have resorted to dishonesty um, in the sense of using AI or using or plagiarizing, I think it just gives them that, it allows them, gives them that time to switch and to change. um, and yeah, I think the fact that it's instilled very early on helps students overall, gives them that room to change and gives them that room to um, become more honest academically and have that integrity.
I think when we learn about academic integrity, when we have these sessions, these activities, it's extremely. It feels very cliche. It feels like you can do better things. But I think the entire purpose is to, when you're at this point where you're contemplating whether or not to be honest, um, in you have this gut feeling that brings you back to all of these activities. It brings you back to all of these lessons about academic integrity, and at that moment, that's where it comes clutch. That's where it it hits you that, okay, I've invested so much energy, I've invested so much time into paying attention about academic integrity, and I think it's worth giving it a shot. So I think everything that we do about academic integrity, maybe at that moment is not relevant, but it plays a very big role in the future, in the short term and long term future. So I think the teachers have done an extremely good job at um, demonstrating that.
Yeah, adding on to what he said, I think the IB's values, they have a set of values that makes an IB learner. Through those values, academic integrity is constantly reinforced. So, some of the values are principled, disciplined, open-minded, and I think like those values that IB has kind of laid out, as IB learners, constantly reinforces a sense of academic integrity into all of us.
I This may be an unpopular thing to say, but the IB is overrated. Um, we're doing all this in the name of the IB, but in real life, this should happen naturally. It's just that the IB incentivizes it, but I feel like doing it in the name of the IB, okay, fine, it'll help you. It gives you a purpose to actually do it, but it shouldn't be because of the IB, because of what we do in school. It should become a natural trait in you to respect other people's work if you're using it, to accept that you need help from someone else, so to let go of that ego that, okay, I own this, it has to be my work. It's not a question of whether it's the IB or not, it's just a question of your own principles and your own values. So I don't think the IB has to be something that enforces this into you.
That's Yeah, so honesty, that's all we need here as well. Please don't hold back. We need you all to be upfront about it. I think there's another question that pops up there. What role does conscience play here? Because as do you think our perception of ethics and values will change as now in this case we're talking about AI, so I'll use AI as an example. Do you think our perception of ethics and values will change as AI disseminates further into our daily lives? Because right now we look at it as something that maybe we should not be using it because it's academically dishonest. But and it's inevitable that AI will disseminate further. So do you think that our perception, our conscience will play a part, and how do we go about it from there?
Okay, so I can say I think out of all the students here, I would be like the most experienced with writing and everything because I'm an IB2, right? So I feel like your question on conscience.
I have a conscience and I have a moral compass as well, and that's what has helped me, not plagiarize and be academically honest whenever I, write anything or even if I do homework. Um, so I think that it's just me as a person. I just have those values set in stone, so I don't do it. But if you're talking about AI, right? Like, of course, I've tried to, understand what AI is. Let's say, the tools such as ChatGPT. I've not used them for my essays, making them very clear. Um, but I've tried to explore it in other things, and I think that of course it's inevitable that it will take over somehow, and it's going to make our way into daily life, right? It's going to make its way into daily life. But I think that at this point in time, you use AI not to write your essays for you, but to get an idea or a perspective or just help you set you in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, you need to use it needs to be your own work. You need to use your own brain for it. And AI won't really give you that answer. It'll just give you a general point of view.
I think adding on to that, AIs can be useful in the sense that they can help provide like reference points or help you understand like framework for certain things. Because I know, at least in the IGCSE as well, there are very specific sort of guidelines to how you're supposed to answer questions or submit reports. And I think AI can be helpful in making sure that your work is aligned with those expectations. But then at the same time, using them as something as an assistance as opposed to using it to give you the entire final product. You have to be able to discern the difference between the two.
So I think that's true. AI can be a very useful tool in terms of gathering information, in terms of just understanding what you're doing in the first place. But I think I can confidently speak for everyone in this room that we know that if we use information from the internet as it is, we won't produce anything good, because what AI does essentially is that it gives you a foundation to start thinking. But what you do with that foundation, how you build on it, is something that is up to your own individual experience, your own individual learning, and your own perception. So if you rely on AI to build on that foundation and to make the entire thing by itself, it's very likely you won't be producing something that's original, of course, or something that's relevant or even acceptable. So I feel like it gives you a foundation to start with, but all the work we've done so far, everything that we've learned in school, at home, it all contributes to this ability to build on that and make it something that's unique to yourself. So yeah, the foundation, the basics are from somewhere else, but what you make of that is entirely upon you, and it's these values that help us do that.
I think, in a nutshell, AI can be a tool. You can't be an AI. It's as simple as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think that at the speed at which AI is advancing, right? We have ChatGPT, we have Grammarly. It's inevitable that it will be ingrained into our education systems. And that does change the definition of academic integrity to a great extent. But as times progress, we need to, and the definition will keep changing, right? It will be modified, but we need to the question is, we need to be able to draw the boundary between being academically dishonest while academically honest while using AI, while using new technology, right? So, like he said, it could be a good tool to set a foundation, but we need to be able to draw that boundary. And I think value systems play a huge role in being able to draw the line, because it's easy to be tempted, once you start using it, once you build on a foundation, it's easy to be tempted to go beyond that, to use AI solely for your extended essay or IAs or even TOK. So I think there's a very fine boundary. These boundaries will keep changing, but it's up to us to identify those boundaries and maintain them.
Additionally, I think there's also the question of nothing that's on the internet is like you probably will get caught. There will be chances that you won't, but there is always more software being developed to fight other softwares. And so, honestly, the only thing that you can be using that won't get you penalized for plagiarism would be your own perspectives and information.
before we continue, I think this conversation is steering towards AI because recently there's been a big leap bound in generative AI with Chat GPT and everything. But it's where we brought up AI as one question because recently it's in the news and it's something that a lot of people are not exactly afraid of. A lot of people are talking about. But academic integrity is not just limited to that. So we'll move on to that. There are several questions there. But yeah, anything else? So
Let me just tell you a little story. When I was a graduate student many, many years ago, taking kind of advanced courses in physics and mathematics, I was in my 20s, and my professors, for the most part, were in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, right? And our professors used to come after class and ask us for help because we knew how to use computers and they didn't. And they were like, wow, look at all these things you can do with computers that we don't know how to do. And they would come ask us, can you show me how to program this computer to make this calculation, etc. So I think it's important to remember that when we have a new tool, such as artificial intelligence, what we're really asking is for a higher level of human intelligence so that human beings can interact with this artificial intelligence to create even better knowledge. So I wouldn't be scared of AI at all. As a matter of fact, my advice to all of you would be learn how to use it and learn how to interact with AI and learn how to use AI to make your research better. Because 10, 15, 20 years from now, or even 5 years from now, your professors will be coming to you and saying, can you show me how to use this AI stuff? Because I don't really understand it. And they will be expecting the next generation to kind of take that discourse, take that level of conversation, take that research to a higher level by using these tools. Of course, you're still going to have to apply your own ethics, your own values, your own higher level of human intelligence to decide what is right and what is wrong. But please don't be afraid of AI. I've been kind of concerned about how many people are like, oh no, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to go near it because I'll get accused. I would actually look at it, especially those of you who are interested in computers, computer science, and these type of topics.
Parents, anything, students, anything. It does not have to be related to this at all. It can be anything. Any your thoughts? Yeah, Sham.
Am I allowed to address a little bit of the first question as well? Okay, so you guys talked about how you should use AI effectively and correctly. And in the first discussion, you also talked about how educators, including parents and teachers, can kind of influence students into academic dishonesty or can influence students to having like good academic integrity. So I'll give you a scenario. Some of the teachers at Casey have actually admitted that they use ChatGPT for their kind of teaching or for their general knowledge. Would that be influencing the students into using the AI incorrectly, or because they use it effectively, the teachers have admitted that they use it in a correct way? Would that actually be encouraging the students to explore AI?
Um, okay. So I think the fact that they are using it correctly and not, copying off entire lesson plans of it, but just for, a base and foundation, like I said before. The fact that they're using it like that uh, would influence the students in a good way, just for the students to understand, as Mixer said, to understand how to use AI rather than, copying off whole essays from it. The fact that the teachers are using it in a correct way and using it more so to make a foundation and for their own knowledge. I think that's where you have that's the line, right? If the teachers were using it to copy off lesson plans, or just, if they were using it unethically, or if they were using it with dishonesty in mind, then I think that would influence students the wrong way. So it's the line. That's how the teachers use it. That's how it would influence students.
And I also don't think there's anything harmful or wrong in exploring AI as a concept because it's inevitable that AI will be ingrained into our lives, right? We will have to rely on AI for a lot of things. So it's not necessarily harmful, but it is harmful in the sense that it might be used too much or it might kind of hinder our thinking. But to explore it, to get a general idea of it, to bounce ideas off it, I don't think is particularly harmful for students or teachers or anyone for that matter.
If I can just add on here. So yesterday I did use ChatGPT for about an hour trying to frame a case study. So I asked it multiple questions and it kept giving me multiple replies. So yeah, Shyam, it did give me some good ideas on how to torture IB2. Yeah, but I couldn't take off anything completely from it. But it did give me some good ideas. So I don't know whether we're using it correctly, but we have started using it. It's been helpful.
I had the ninth graders in a math class about a week ago, and I showed some artificial intelligence on the screen to the students, and I just typed in, write a calculus test focused on basic differentiation, and brrr, out came the calculus test, right? So the test was actually pretty good. It was, the questions were correct. They were answerable. There were no typos, etc. But then the students started engaging immediately with the test, right? And they said, "Oh, this is easy." So I said, "Okay, make it more challenging." Brrr, and out came some more difficult questions. And then they were like, "Oh," they started groaning. "Why did we do that?" Right? And then one of the students asked, "Suppose the AI gives you a topic that's not on the portions." I said, "Oh, that's your problem, not my problem." They all started laughing, and then they started asking questions like, "So what's on the portions and what's not on the portions?" And then they looked at the particular questions and say, "We haven't learned that yet, and we had learned that yet." And so then they got into a long conversation about how they thought this wasn't very good AI and there are better forms of AI for mathematics. So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. Use these tools to stimulate higher order conversations about the things that we're supposed to already be learning.
Yeah, so this coming week, I think we have another panel discussion on generative AI predominantly, and therefore our main aim was to make sure that this conversation does not branch into ChatGPT, etc., etc. But for the next student panel, the voice discussion, actually some of our panelists again. So our entire context here, this was specifically for generative AI, right, where you can cater down to, is something that we will later be talking about again. Now, another question we have is, have you ever personally engaged in any forms of plagiarism? And in retrospect, what did you learn from it?
Person to answer this. Yes, I have personally engaged in plagiarism. This was the first year of my PhD, and it was all over the place. Uh, Basically, the questions that the students ask, or I myself asked, how do I not plagiarize a definition? How is that a plagiarism? Auntie, this passage is taken from the book. It is said it is by the author. So how do I not say it? Can I just put it inside quotes and say, oh God, this particular person, this is the author who has said all these things? Basically, in math, when it comes to definitions, we have a big hit over there. But do we have to really talk about citing the reference, the originality for the definitions? I don't think so. The symbols are used all over. It's a universal language that we use in mathematics. The other part that I had trouble with was rewriting or getting the essence of the other research paper into my paper. So that was the first time that I indulged myself in plagiarism, and I learned it the hard way. I didn't know how to work around the research papers. And finally, I understood that over a period of time, I understood that the essence of the research paper, go through each and every line, go through each and every word, understand what is the concept behind that research paper, and then bring it down to your understanding while you're mentioning their work. So, yes, I have been a victim of, plagiarizing papers and the concepts, but I learned it the way it has to be done.
Anyone else?
I spent, this is going to sound surprising, but I spent a lot of time thinking about this question and trying to remember if I've ever plagiarized. And I actually lost some sleep over it. I could not remember. I still cannot remember ever plagiarizing. So then I thought about why. And I think we've talked a lot about values and honesty, but there's another important component here, which is tools and skills. So I think because I had good teachers when I was young who taught me what it means to give appropriate credit to the people that I was reading, where I got my ideas, how to cite, how to use quotation marks, how to write bibliographies. And because I had that set of skills, it's just never really occurred to me to actually plagiarize. But I also think it's just part of it is just I'm a really stubborn person, right? And I have my own ideas and I have my own opinions and I am a very opinionated person. And I want to put my own ideas onto paper. I don't want to copy somebody else's. And I'm not sure if that's a bad characteristic or good or neither, but it's certainly part of my personality as a scholar or as a researcher. I'm trying to get my own ideas across. So I don't want to copy somebody else's ideas.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything? Okay, so we had another question, but I think we're running out of time. That was to build up on what Jani Aunty said. If you were to plagiarize, how would you get away with it? It's not controversial, but it's something that I think needs to be looked at.
You can't get away from plagiarism. You have your conscience that works. You can't get away from plagiarizing and then say, oh, I escaped. No, it doesn't work. Never works. The unknowingly, it is, you don't, when you plagiarize and you know it, it's never a mistake. So, the plagiarism, if you have the right tools, you have got the right people to guide you through, it is never warranted for.
No, I feel like not plagiarism per se, but just academic dishonesty in general. There will be a point where I'm just gonna be so burnt up where I resort to it because it's inevitable in at least for me. I know at some point I will resort to it. Maybe not completely, but at some point in the future, I feel like it will be a part of something small, something big. Um, but that's because, and I will. The only way I will be able to accept it is if I tweak the definition of academic integrity to my convenience. So and what I also want to add is that if I were to take someone's work from someone who I know from this room, let's say, I would feel much more guilty than if I would take someone else's work who I don't know. And that's because I feel like I don't have a direct responsibility or connection to that person, right? So I would just tweak the definition to my convenience and somehow convince myself that okay, this is the best that I can do. And sometimes maybe it's a question of even if I were to do it on my own, the result wouldn't be as good as it would be if I took the information from someone else, right? Because I would be so burnt up at one point where it'll be inevitable that I will um, resort to the internet for my assignments or whatever it is. So I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but at least for me, I know that at some point, in some way or the other, I might engage um, in these activities, and that's why I feel like maybe I don't deserve to be here talking about academic integrity, but it is what it is.
Yep. Anything else? Teachers,
If I were to plagiarize and wanted to get away with it, I would just rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it until eventually it kind of became my voice, right? It becomes me, right? And that's one place where maybe AI can be helpful. It gives you an idea, and then you rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it, and then your own voice comes out.
I feel like personally, if there was something really big that I was academically dishonest about, like my IA or my EE or something, while the quality might be better, you will, like, feelings of guilt will start to creep up. And also the fact that you're not going to be as proud of your work as you would have been if you had done it yourself. Right? And I feel like one important turning point for academic integrity was when COVID struck and everyone was at home. It was easy to, like when we had tests online, it was very easy for people to just Google up answers and Google up use math calculators. And I speak, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that lot of students had engaged in such activities. And you can't, I think, to a great extent, learning was also hindered by this whole online Google Meet, Google Meet, like learning was hindered by the online world. But I feel like it wasn't easy for students to resist the temptation of cheating, right? And so it wasn't easy to resist the temptation of cheating and googling up answers. And I feel like that was a turning point in determining what value systems really mean. And when we got back to in-person school, it was harder for a lot of people to cope without these software.
Yeah. Okay, I think that brings an end to this discussion. Thank you, parents, thank you, teachers, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dhruv and Yukta. I think this is coffee morning and it's for the parents mainly and for the students also. So the fundamental takeaway for us with regards to academic integrity and supporting students, one is the value system, accept the children as they are. Let's be realistic about our expectations, students and parents. And two, there are systems and tools in place at KC. Make use of it and be aware of it. I think this should be our takeaway from this discussion. Thanks to all the parents. If you wish to stay back, we have the group 4 presentation by grade 12 students starting in a minute. If you wish to stay back and watch it, you are most welcome. Or you could leave if you wish. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Check. நீங்க சாப்பிட்டீங்களா? அவரு 41.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, parents, for being here, taking the time and being here to actually witness what your kids have done. So I start with a very simple question. Could you please let me, uh, could you just state or could you just point out one problem the world faces today? Any one problem which the world needs to solve today? Sara aunty says access to water.
Climate change.
Climate change, yes. Social media pressure. Yes, there are so many things which actually lie in the forefront which we need to actually solve. Out of which one of you will, one of the things which we will all commonly agree is climate change. And if you look at climate change, can it be solved just by the scientists of one discipline? Is that possible? Is that seemingly possible? Absolutely not. It's because climate change is such a varied area where every single discipline, every scientist working in every single discipline should actually put their brains together and come up with solutions. And these solutions are multifaceted, and all these solutions put together give us some respite from climate change. So something similar to that, IB takes this line and IB looks at every problem and clearly sees that every problem is multifaceted and every problem needs multiple brains to actually come together to actually solve a particular problem. Here we have a group 4 project. A group 4 project, when we say group 4 of IB, we talk about physics, chemistry, biology, DT, computer science. Have I left out any? And ESS, sorry. So we have so many disciplines which come under group 4, and students tend to actually take 1 or 2 group 4 subjects and learn. But what they essentially have to do is when they're solving a world problem, they actually bring everything together to solve that world problem again. So that's what you actually see over here. They've taken a particular topic which entails almost everything. And we have seen how different subjects have contributed in solving that particular problem. So we are here to actually look at how solar panels have evolved to what they are right now. And we are going to look at it from the aspects of physics, chemistry, biology, ESS, I didn't forget, DT, and computer science. So over to the students.
Okay, thank you, Roshan sir, for that introduction. Okay, all right. So I think Roshan sir summed up the idea and the purpose of the Group 4 project pretty well. Okay, I don't think this clicker thing is working. Okay. So just to recap, right? The Group 4 project is a research project which all Group 4 students, so everyone who takes science, which is our entire class has to take it. So everyone collaborates on a particular topic or a real life issue. Right? So how did we get to this? We first were split into groups based on topics that we wanted to pick. So the topics were cell phones, a car, a glucose monitor, and solar panels. So for each of these topics, we sort of identified different, how this relates to every single science. So I'll give you an example for cell phones, right? So for cell phones, you have computer science. It's the overall concept of a cell phone. Chemistry, you talk about the materials. DT, you talk about the product design. Physics, you talk about electricity as a whole. ESS, you'll talk about disposal. Bio, you talk about how it affects screen time, everything, right?
So we were split into groups and we picked a few topics, and the most popular topic was solar panels, and that's what we are doing today. Now, why are solar panels relevant? It's because the world is moving to look at a more renewable source of energy, and everyone's looking to move to a cleaner source and more sustainable as the world is moving on. As someone rightly said, climate change is a big problem we face today. So this will help. So we're just going to go on with the presentations, and we're going to start off with physics and chemistry.
So before we start off with the physics and chemistry involved, brief history of solar panels. So they were first invented in 1884. They used the element known as selenium, and they had an efficiency of around 1%.
So the way that these solar panels actually work is based on something called the photoelectric effect. So what this is about is how energy from a light source or any other source of electromagnetic radiation is used to actually remove electrons from a surface, usually from a metal. And the main equation that determines that is the equation for the work function, which is explained here. And this talks about how the EK max, which refers to the energy that the electrons actually have, is affected by the energy of the photons, which make up light, and the work function, which determines the minimum amount of energy that is required to actually remove the electrons from the surface.
So this is like a type of the solar panel. So the photovoltaic cell is basically a cell which converts the solar energy that we have to electric energy using the photovoltaic cell that Krishav explained. So this is the main principle, and this is how the solar panel essentially works.
Yeah, so actually, like till now, silicon is being used for solar panels, and they actually have an efficiency of around 20%. But now researchers at MIT are looking for a new material to improve this efficiency. And one of the materials they found is called the perovskite. So it basically it's basically more lightweight and is ultra thin. So it helps improve the efficiency of like absorbing sunlight. So approximately now, when they've actually tested it, it has an efficiency of 25.2% approximately. So it's like a 25% increase from the silicon-based solar panels. And furthermore, the surface treatment and topological optimization, so they're basically just to help improve the efficiency of absorbing sunlight. So you can either use silicon monoxide or make the surface rugged, basically meaning that it's not smooth, but has a lot of edges so that when light when light initially is absorbed, it reflects a lot so that it's contained within the solar panel and is not like escaped outside. And also topological optimization, they're trying to make solar panels kind of resemble a leaf shape so that it's more widened in order to, again, help improve the efficiency of absorbing sunlight. Yeah, now we're moving on to design technology.
So talking about the future of solar, there's a bar graph showing an increase in the usage of photovoltaic installations, and from 2010 to, if you see, till 2022, and then it's predicted that it'll further increase till 2030, and it's also predicted that the solar usage in the US will increase from 3% to 40% by 2035 and 45% by 2050, and it's segregated in various sectors, such as it'll contribute 30% of buildings energy, 14% of transportation energy, and 8% of industrial energy by 2050. talking about the usage of solar energy, it is mainly firstly seeing in homes and residential areas. It is installed in roofs and mainly just for generating electricity, and it's also replacing water heaters, geysers, and it can be also used for charging cars and cooking food in a much more sustainable way. And talking about agricultural, uh, so it has multi-purpose here, because if you see that picture, it's the solar panels are installed in such a way that it's providing some shed to the plants, but and it's using the maximum of the land, and it also provides uh, water protection. That means there's lesser water getting evaporated due to the heat. And the main cause of installing these solar panels is, if you look at from the price point, initially it's a very heavy investment to install solar panels. But in the long term, this reduces the cost of production for agricultural firms while being sustainable as well. And the last use is industrial, which is powering large offices, buildings, and yeah.
Okay, so moving on to cell types that are used in solar panels. So as DT design technology students, we look into aspects of trying to, basically how we can change what's already, already existing products. So here are different types of cells that have been tried, and some of them, obviously they produce a more efficient output of voltage or potential output. But for example, if we take gallium up here on the top, gallium has the most output potential out of these four. But the downside to gallium here would be, after testing, is that gallium's obviously like a highly contagious, flammable, infectious material that cannot be used. So this is what us as DT students do. We kind of basically take these materials that these chemistry and physics students have given us, and we test them in the real world and figure out whether they can be implemented into places such as residential, like me said, agricultural spaces and industrial spaces. So if gallium was used in an agricultural, like in the context of like an agricultural place or shed, it would obviously contaminate the plants, and that wouldn't work out because we'd be eating contaminated food. So this is how us as DT students, we look at different types of cells with the help of physics and chemistry students to figure out optimal efficiency. So these are the different types of solar panels that exist on the market right now. We have the blue one, which is polycrystalline solar panels. This is the most common type of solar panel that we see. It's used in residential, industrial, and wherever, agricultural too. But obviously, we have seen the evolution of the solar panel throughout the course of history. And now we have these three new panels. So what distinguishes these three panels from our already existing solar panel? So if you look at the thin film solar panel, it has nothing. You can't see the grid pattern. You can't see anything on it. So basically, the evolution from our polycrystalline solar panel to the thin film solar panel is basically what DT designers wanted to do was, you see all the white lines in the middle. Those are spaces where energy is not being produced. There isn't enough output from there. And obviously, being DT designers, we're trying to maximize costs, we're trying to maximize efficiency, and we're trying to maximize production. So what they basically did here was, we know black as a color absorbs the most heat. They've basically completely coated the whole panel with a black thin film, leading to obviously more production output because the whole surface area is covered. So, but the thing is, with thin film, it's obviously very expensive because the material used to coat the panel itself is very expensive. So we see thin film, obviously, if you guys know about the Tesla roof and generally residential roofs in general, this is where we see thin film patterns. So the other two types of panels, they're starting to be seen on industrial scale. So we see them on top of factories, on top of, if you go drive down further up north, we see them on this grass, green sides, fields. So this is basically the different types of solar panels that we see in our market today. Right. Why is DT important in the context of solar panels, obviously? So, mounting structures. Yeah. So, obviously we have our solar panels, right? But what do we put the solar panels on? We use mounting structures for solar panels. And this is where us as DT designers, we come in to play. We design the mounting structures to make sure that we get the most efficient type of output, most efficient output from the solar panels themselves. So what us as a DD class did, we took a case study. Obviously, I don't know if you can see, if you zoom in, this is our school, KC, where we are right now. And we used a website and outputting, solar output website to figure out what the optimum mounting structure would be if we use it at KC. So what we did was we used the system as a medium residential, I'm not sure if you can see up there, but a medium residential solar system. And what this optimum solar website did for us was it gave us how much output it would produce in a year, and it gave us the angle at which we need to place these solar panels. And this basically led us to kind of creating, so this led us to, us DT students kind of creating a mounting structure for our school if it were to be implemented. So what we'd like to show you now is 4 different types of mounting structures. Us as a DT class, we've made some CAD models for you guys, so some live demonstration. So, right. Okay, so what we see here is a fixed mounting structure, meaning that it does not move at all. What the producers or the industrialists do is basically they're given a fixed angle from the solar company themselves, and they're given, like, look, produce a mounting structure where you have this angle and the solar panel goes on top of it. So this is a 14-degree angle like we saw on the slide before, where 14 degrees is the optimum angle for producing the most efficiency. So this is a fixed, to summarize, fixed structure, does not move at all. Now the next one we have is a single axis rotation. So basically what the structure does is it moves on one axis. So it moves, it follows the path of the sun. So what it does is, again, as DT students, we are trying to figure out the way we can optimize efficiency and optimize power output. So what this does is, as our CS students will talk about in the later slides, mounting structures use solar, like sun and light sensors to track the sun, where a single axis mounting structure is used to produce optimum efficiency. So we can see that the solar panel, if a sensor were to be implemented, it moves back and forth on one single axis. The next one is So the next one is a mobile rotational mounting structure. So what this does is it allows for 360-degree movement of the solar panel. But the thing with this mounting structure is that, like the fixed mounting structure in the beginning, the production company or the industrialists, they again give the optimum angle to the producers, and they're supposed to make this. So it's not like the single axis, it doesn't move, it only rotates in 360 degrees. So just to give you an example, it just moves in circles like this to follow the sun. And the last type of mounting structure that we have, this is the most efficient because you could say it's like an all-in-one structure. It combines the 3 that we've seen before, but you guys can probably tell this is probably the most expensive to produce, and it's rarely seen in mounting structures and solar panels that we see today. So this is an all-in-one mounting structure. It moves in all directions, 360. I guess you guys kind of get the gist from this solar panel moving. So that was kind of the rundown of mounting structures. And when implementing mounting structures and solar panels, we look at important factors such as angle, weather, wind resistance, and altitude of a place. So the reason we look at this is If you take a place like Ooty, obviously the angle wouldn't be 14 degrees. It would be something around a 22 or 20 degree angle that we'd have to place the solar panel or the solar mounting structure on. And if we go up all the way to some place like Dharamshala, we have a lot of wind, we have high speeds of wind, right? So how do we design an optimum mounting structure so that A, it works up in the mountains at high altitude levels, and B, has wind resistance and weather resistance. Right. And to do all of this, us as GT students, we have a chapter in our textbook, and we use material choices. We look at different types of material that could be implemented in these mounting structures to be most efficient, most resistant, and most effective in different types of scenarios.
Okay, so now we are going to give you a quick run through of the applications of computer science in solar panels. So just to build on what the DT students were talking about, imagine like this design cycle which starts with research and then conceptualization and then making the product and then the operation and maintenance. If we look at pre-production, production, and post-production, computer science, most of its significance falls in the post-production, when after the solar panel's been made, after the research is done by the computer science and the physics department of any company, after the chemistry and physics department of any company, and then the DT department who actually make and mount the solar panels. Computer science comes in where we try to optimize the efficiency, making sure that solar panels working as efficient as it could, and finding ways to predict how much performance these solar panels are going to produce in the future. And based on that, we can sort of predict how useful a set of solar panels will be in solving our energy needs as a society. So, so the biggest thing I think we all know is AI has almost become synonymous with computer science. It's become a field that's rapidly growing, the fastest growing industry in the world. And the largest application of AI that we can see is to create more efficient, more cost-effective solar panels. So how this works exactly is that we can design and mount a solar panel in any one of the options suggested by our DT students. And after the solar panel has begun functioning, what we do is we install sensors on the solar panels, and we simulate as well as predict how much performance in terms of wattage, how much performance a solar panel can produce. And based on that, we make predictions in the future. So for example, an extension of this is using AI with drone images to determine how much potential output an area can conjure. So this is a different way of doing it. So imagine we place drones in parts of the city where we think solar panels can produce the most performance. And we start mapping out using AI that, hey, this roof will be ripe for us to get solar energy out of. And that could help us decide which places are best optimized for installing solar panels and which places aren't so much. So if we move on to the next slide, we see a subset of AI, which is machine learning. Now, machine learning is a very, very cool new nascent field that's come up. It's essentially the process by which we teach as programmers. We teach machines to learn by themselves. Now, this might sound a bit out of the box, but it's over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of growth in this industry. So I can give you an example, a more simplified example of this. So imagine a computer is fed with pictures of apples and oranges. And as a programmer, the first piece of instructions that we give the computer is that, hey, apples look like this. They have this color, they have this shape. And we do the same for oranges. Now, over time, the AI will start sorting them by itself. Rather than us saying that, hey, this is an apple, that's an orange, the machine starts doing it by itself. And over a large period of time, as we supply the computer with thousands of images of different apples and oranges, now the computer is smart enough to look at any fruit and decide and determine whether what fruit it is. So this has applications in facial recognition. When we see pictures of people, a computer can tell us who that is. That this is used in national security. This is used as small as iPhones, as big as applications that determine national security and defense. So similarly, say that in a solar panel context, imagine that we give the computer a set of data about how much a solar panel is producing. Based on that, the computer trains itself to start predicting how much it might produce tomorrow or day after or in the future. And this is important because imagine we have a particular neighborhood that needs this amount of energy and we set up solar panels. This can help us decide whether these solar panels are going to achieve or help us meet these energy needs, or whether these solar panels are going to come short. So that's where computer science falls. And even this example, this shows us the correlation between performance and weather data. So if we use AI to look at how the weather is performing based on the weather on that day or tomorrow or day after, we can come up with an approximation of how powerful these solar panels can be on that day. So as I said, computer science is crucial in optimizing and increasing the efficiency of these solar panels, and it comes a lot in the post-production. But that being said, there are limitations to it. So if we move on, we see that, as I said, this is a very new field, and it hasn't been fully juiced out, churned out as physics and chemistry and design, because, as I said, the availability of training data is crucial. Without data, computers can't make decisions. They can't be intelligent. Without data, it would be like a baby looking at a set of graphs, and they would be unable to analyze it. So the lack of data availability is a huge issue. And then obviously, as it comes with any large-scale application, the accuracy of results has come into question recently. Whether these models, whether these applications of machine learning can actually predict as well as it actually turns out. So there have been times where the simulations have been wrong, but I think that's natural with a field as nascent as computer science, and no, not computer science, but as AI and machine learning, which is why we think we should give computers the time. We should give the field enough time for us to come up with more cost-effective, more efficient solutions. And we could, with the right resources, we could find a way to optimize not just solar panels, but whether it's different forms of renewable energy, whether it's hydroelectric or any other forms of renewable energy. And essentially, over a long period of time, say in 20, 30, 40 years, we can accurately predict how much or how efficient all types of renewable energy can be, and whether we can achieve and meet our energy needs as planet Earth. And that's where computer science comes in. Okay, so the relationship between DT and CS. All right, so as the DT students had talked about earlier, I think the installation of sensors is crucial. As a DT student myself, we went through the process of how these sensors can be installed, and then computer science comes in. As I said, it's the production versus the post-production. The production and the installation of these sensors is huge and is significant in the field of DT, and the optimization of such sensors to make sure these sensors working and to produce results out of these sensors is where computer science is particularly significant. And then furthermore, DT is involved with cutting costs, making sure that the installation of these mounting structures, the installation of these solar panels, the technology behind it can be reduced in cost as much as possible, because that's what the secret formula is. It's to maximize efficiency, reduce costs. So that's the only way we can make affordable technology that can be used by not only the rich, not only the people who can afford it, but used worldwide in a universal scale. So yes, thank you.
Okay, so in the aspect of biology, there's a lot of research being done on changing the type of cell use instead of using silicon to actually use an organism that lives and breathes. Most commonly, it's a photoautotrophic organism, which is essentially an organism that uses photosynthesis to survive. So they are self-sufficient and they can produce food. And the most commonly used one is cyanobacteria, which is a form of algae. And because cyanobacteria does not require a lot of things to keep it alive, it just needs water, and it's sort of self-sufficient after that. And so the cyanobacteria essentially will be attached to a circuit, and in the circuit there's a membrane where once the bacteria photosynthesizes, the products are split between electrons, protons, and oxygen. And the electrons and protons go into the membrane, and the electron starts moving around the circuit, hence producing electricity. And because there is oxygen released, and cyanobacteria is a type of algae that can't survive much in the abundance of oxygen, so there are still limitations to this model as of now, because cyanobacteria would die after a point with the extreme excessive oxygen present in the circuit.
Okay, so what we were talking about the environmental impact as well. Like Priya said, the electrons that are produced through this model, it goes through the external circuit, but and it is used to generate electricity. But some of the electrons recombine with the protons that is produced to produce water, and the oxygen just leaves through the environment to the environment, and the water gets harvested. So there's no much chemical waste that is being produced. So there's less environmental impact that is happening. So Rishi will be talking more about that.
So a lot of understanding the biological aspect of solar panels is understanding waste management with regards to solar panels and how it'll affect the environment. So as you can see, a California-based biotech company called BioSolar invented solar panels from bio-based materials that are from renewable plant sources. And previously, before this, we only really had solar panels made of silicon. And silicon is hard to dispose of in the sense that it takes hundreds of years to decompose. And therefore, since you use solar panels on an average of maybe 20, 25 years, then is the time it takes for silicon to decompose back into the environment really worth having all of this like material around? So it was a very important breakthrough. The disadvantage of the biosolar panels is that they're probably going to be they've been much more expensive to make, and in general it's still a lot to be tested about them. And another alternative actually towards solar panels in the field of biology that we came across was the idea of biofuel and using organic materials as fuel, because in the same way, this would also provide energy. But the disadvantage of this is that it would produce many carbon emissions. So overall, there's a lot to consider about what sources of energy could be alternatives that are more renewable and better to the environment than your traditional silicon solar panel.
While I was going through this field of biophotovoltaics, I found some of the most interesting potential application that could be used in the future. This device was introduced by a group of researchers in the University of Cambridge. So they use this colony of cyanobacteria, which is also known as the blue-green algae, and they enclosed it inside this metal enclosure, which is like the size of an AA battery. So instead of using like the normal, the traditional batteries as well as the solar cells, this algae is photosynthesized, and it used to produce like a tiny amount of electricity, which is used to power the chip that is present inside this device. So obviously it has a smaller environmental impact that we already spoke about. But something about this is that when the researchers tested it out, it produced continuous power. And this was mainly because the algae it did not require any kind of feeding. So it used all its energy from the natural sunlight, and it was able to produce electricity even during the night, which was mainly because of the excess electrons that were stored inside the plant cells during the day. So hence they were able to produce the electricity continuously even at the night time. So that's one. So this is another potential application introduced by the same group of researchers. So this is basically they use lily pads and they coated it with algae, and when they presumed it that possibly in the future that this BPV power station would harness the same amount of energy as the offshore wind station. So yeah, at the end, basically the aim of this biophotovoltaic field is to harness the power using these microorganisms, which is the cyanobacterias, to produce electricity from light using photosynthesis. That's pretty much it. So thank you.
Okay, hello. So this is the last part of the presentation. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. So firstly, in environmental science class, we talk about the impacts of different problems on the environment, but as well as on people. So a lot of it is actually analyzing practicality of approaches. Now, we've heard every other science talk about solar panels and how they can make it better and more efficient. But really, why do we care about solar panels? It's because of the negative impact on the environment. And well, the point is that solar panels are supposedly like renewable, and they use the sun. So they're meant to be better for the environment than other kinds of energy like coal and oil and so on. So we do see some different pros and cons of solar panels. So we have low operating costs and creates jobs, and also it conserves water, because like using water electricity could be like bad in the long run. But there are some like hidden cons to this as well, such as the environmental concerns. So the thing is, like you can see over there in the photo that solar panels, like it's hard to recycle them and it's hard to like actually dispose of them. So they have like a lifespan of about 25 to 30 years. And if you look at the graph on the right, the red line is projected waste from solar panels over the course of time. And we obviously don't want that to end up in landfills. And so experts propose like different waste mitigation techniques, like repurposing, recycling, and also like making the producer responsible for it. And I think in our opinion, like the ESS class as a whole, we think all these techniques can be used together in order to make the whole life cycle of a solar panel more sustainable, and not just tout it as a renewable energy source. And of course, the more efficient it is, the better it is in the long run, which is where DT physics and chem come into play. And computer science is better for the longevity of solar panels. And so I think we can obviously see how all the sciences have tied together to analyze this issue of solar panels. So thank you for your time today. Hope you enjoyed.
So thank you, everyone. So this was a very interesting project, because at some point you realize that the borders between certain subjects are practically non-existent, right? For example, physics and chemistry, they both share a chapter called energy. So in chemistry, the option that we've picked is called energy, and in physics, it's called energy production. That's why we chose to combine our efforts after a point in time. So what you see here, the final product, it's a combination of the works of two different teams that we split ourselves into, and then we came together at the end and we put this together. If there's any feedback you may have for us, or any questions you'd like to ask, we'd be happy to answer them. Oh, sure.
everyone. I just had one not feedback but a compliment to give. I think each and one of you have spoken without a break, without meaning. No one struggled with the concept at all, if you notice. No one did not know what was written on the slide or did not know the concept. I think that way, a very complete, project in the study is my compliment and a feedback.
I don't know whether we can answer this question now, but has anybody thought about this? Is not group 4 interdisciplinary, but in terms of economics integration. Anybody thought about lithium availability, 5.6 tons of that in Kashmir, and how is that going to affect our economy, since it's related to this? You haven't started discussing that yet? Okay.
I think a lot of lithium actually comes from Central Africa, and a lot of countries which really don't pay a lot of attention to ethics are actually mining those things right now. If India is actually having a lot of lithium resource, I think India is much more ethical in that way to promote ethical mining and no child labor and all that. So maybe lithium production will be a more ethical concept if India has a lot of lithium resource. Any ideas? What do you guys feel?
Well done. Very, very well presented. So congratulations to you on that. What's that? So congratulations again. It shows your collaborative skills and commitment to learning. Please continue to do that. It's just less than a week's time for your mock examinations to commence. You didn't want me to remind you about that? It's okay. Thank you. Thanks to the parents.